Allan Vyhnalek here. For more information, go to cap.unl.edu. That's where this video will be stored, and also cap@unl.edu. If you want to email any questions in, use cap@unl.edu, and that's where you can send in questions. So manure and crop ground. I get questions about this every once in a while, so I want to make a few comments about that and have them recorded for the future, because I'll be retired here in a day or two. So this is based on what I hear about what's happening in Nebraska. It's based on some science. It's based on some research being done. Every neighborhood tends to treat all this stuff a little bit differently, and whatever the landlord tended to agree to is more important than what I have in this program. So understand that there's no real rules here, but here's a collection of thoughts on how to utilize manure properly in your cropland. So overall, it's a good resource, right? It's beneficial to fertility and soil health and improves crop production. It is a good source of phosphorus and micronutrients. It's an excellent source of phosphorus. It can be a good source of nitrogen, but it depends on how that's applied. And so I put two different kinds of application notices down here. One is knifed in on the left. The other one's a broadcast of the liquid on the right. And so if you're not doing anything else to that field on the right, note that nitrogen will dry and escape into the atmosphere in a day or two. So if you're trying to capture nitrogen, the method on the left with the knifing it in to the soil is a preferred method. If you're going to capture, if you're really interested in the nitrogen use, and there's no reason not to be, you might as well capture it while you have it, but you have to get that incorporated. So if you're going to broadcast over the top, like on what we're showing on the right picture here, you probably should go back in and do some sort of a tillage operation to get that put into the ground. And also manure is a very good source of organic matter for the soil. It helps build that. And that's a good thing, because organic matter will lead to better soil moisture holding ability, soil moisture capacity ability. And so that'll lead to better crops. There's some cautions on using manure, and so the big one is you make sure you apply manure based on what your phosphorus needs are from soil tests, and you don't over apply. And so understand that the large confinement animal feeding operations have to do a manure management plan, and so they have to get soil tests, and they have to follow what the soil test recommendations are in terms of how they're applying the manure. And so they're fairly well, they should be doing it right, is what I'm trying to say. The other thing I would encourage is don't apply manure to the same field year after year or twice a year or whatever. Your phosphorus levels can go crazy. Don't do that. Just make sure that the manure is applied correctly, and use your soil test to determine that, and test your manure to know what you're putting out there. I think that's an important step. Another point is to be careful about where manure is stockpiled if it's not applied right away. And a couple of concerns here. Number one, it has to do with water events, rain events, if we ever get any rain. But the bottom line is, if you put the manure at the edge of a field that's near a creek or a stream, know that you don't want to necessarily do that, because if you'd have a heavy rain event and you'd have a flash flood through there, then you're taking the manure down into the water supply. That's a bad idea. Also know that if you leave manure out there for very long and you get a big heavy rain event, you can, especially if you're on lighter soils like sand, know that you will put that manure, you could put that nitrogen that's in that manure down into the groundwater, and that's something we want to avoid. The other thing that's happening with those bigger rain events is that if manure is left and it gets washed away, the manure still has the phosphorus. It sits up on top. It doesn't leach, and so the phosphorus will go down into the water supply. And we're trying to avoid some of that, because the too much phosphorus load down in the Gulf is one of our main culprits is manure from livestock, causing some of that to happen, and from fields causing some of that to happen. So and the other thing is, I hear some people talk about weed seed and manure. I've never worried about that too much, because if manure heats at all, if it has any kind of heating effect, the weed seeds are typically destroyed. And now, of course, if you have straight from a feedlot and it just gets scraped up and hauled straight to a field, it may not have had a chance to heat up. And so you have to just know what your roughage source is for those cattle. A typical feedlot cattle, let's say on corn silage and corn stalk mixture of some sort with grain, there shouldn't be a lot of weed seeds in that unless there's a bad source of forage going there. Just know what your sources of forage are before you accept manure from that particular place, if that's what you're worried about. So manure is a good product if it's not over applied. it helps with your organic matter, helps with your phosphorus. It's just very good. And especially do some pencil pushing to see if the price is right. A lot of people are starting to charge for manure now, and that's appropriate. That's welcome. It's a good secondary source of income for the crop side. And so just know what you're getting, or excuse me, for the livestock side, for your livestock production. You get some income from that side. And so just know what you're getting on your manure, apply it correctly, and it can be an excellent product. Just don't apply it to your fields every year. Maybe every third or fourth year will be the correct amount for the amount of phosphorus you need for that crop production. And it's a very good source of phosphorus in that way. Any questions, make sure you let somebody know at cap@unl.edu for an email, or go to the CAP website here, and there you can get more questions answered if you have other questions about manure. Great to come to you today, and I hope that this program was helpful. Have a great day.